fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to another episode of Sean's Movie Crusades, as I'm here to review Toy Story 4. Now, for me, Toy Story has been a huge part of my life. They're my favorite Pixar films. I usually, when I tell anyone, hey, what's your favorite Pixar films? I usually go, well, not counting the Toy Stories, because they're like God tier to me. And then I start to go with whatever Pixar films I like after that, because the Toy Story franchise, all of them, fantastic films. Now, I will admit my least favorite's probably Toy Story 2. I don't think the Prospector thing really worked for me, but overall, it's still a fantastic film. But 1 and 3 crushed me. I cried at least 2-3 times while watching Toy Story 3. One of my favorite movies of the year when it came out. One of my favorite animated films overall. So I love the Toy Story franchise, and I thought 3 had the perfect ending for a franchise. And so when I heard that Toy Story 4 was coming out, I was real upset. I was real disappointed, because I was like, you ended the franchise beautifully, and all you can do now is just mess it up. And then the trailers came out, and they didn't look that good. They didn't excite me. I just watched them going, oh crap, you guys are gonna ruin Toy Story. And, I was just real down about it. And then, so going into Toy Story 4, I was hesitant, because it's like, it's Toy Story, it's probably still going to be good. It's not going to be like Cars 2 or anything like that. But it was one of those was like, you had a perfect trilogy, you ended it beautifully, and now you've gone and you've messed it up and you added a 4th film. Please don't mess this up for me. So let's see with this review, did they mess it up, or did they manage to knock it out of the park again? The general plot for Toy Story 4 is the characters, all the toys are still with Bonnie as they were left in Toy Story 3. Basically what's going on right now is Woody, because this is basically Woody's story, is he's kind of going through a dilemma right now. He's not the number one toy in Bonnie's life. He kind of gets left in the closet, literally left in the closet compared to the other toys. But he still feels like he needs to be in charge. But he's not in charge of Bonnie's toys. That goes to Dolly, played by Bonnie Hunt. And so he's just kind of in the way, but he's still just so focused on trying to be the best toy possible he can be for Bonnie, basically trying to do everything that he did with Andy. Bonnie goes to her first day of kindergarten, and she makes a new friend, and that is Forky, who's basically a spork that she made out of arts and crafts supplies. And Forky magically comes to life. And so, by Woody's shock, Bonnie comes home and he introduces Forky to the rest of the crew. And Forky's a little off. He's a little different, because he doesn't understand why he's alive, and he also feels like he should be trash, like a spork normally is. And so Woody has to go through this dilemma of, he realizes how important Forky is to Bonnie. And so he has to keep Forky safe while still trying to protect Bonnie, and also try to teach Forky that he's more than just trash, that he's actually important to Bonnie's life. And so he's trying so hard to do this. No one else is really helping him with this. It's kind of his pet project. And it's stressing him out. And it's to the point where it's the hardest he's ever had to try to make a child happy. And so it's a hardcore dilemma going for Woody. And then, of course, they go on an RV trip, and Forky jumps out of the window, so Woody goes after him. And then there's a whole other adventure where he finds Bo Peep, who we have not seen since Toy Story 2. So there, Bo Peep comes back, and she's a badass now. And then there's also some introductions of some new characters, because they go to an antique shop. And so you have the new villain, Gabby Gabby, and then she's got these kind of ventriloquist dolls that look real creepy. And then you got the introduction of 2 other characters, Ducky and Bunny, played by Key and Peele. And then, of course, the big one, which, it's not a spoiler anymore because he popped up in the trailers. You, of course, got Keanu Reeves, who plays Duke Kaboom, who's basically like an Evel Knievel kind of Canadian Daredevil toy. But yeah, I'm not going to go too much further into the story, but just know that all these characters show up, and that it's a Woody-driven story about kind of what his purpose is now, that he's no longer the top toy, and he's going to kind of come into a fork in the road, no pun intended, because of Forky. where he has to kind of decide, do I still keep trying to be the toy for Bonnie, or do I do my own thing? And so that's kind of the general plot of Toy Story 4. What works with Toy Story 4? Everything. This movie, I don't know how Pixar did it, but you managed to have a film that worked on every possible level. And while, like I said, I was upset that you guys did this because I thought 3 ended perfectly, 4 ends beautifully. And before I forget, there are post-credit scenes for Toy Story 4, and I strongly, strongly urge you all to stay till the very last part of the end credits. Like, I get it, the credits are going to end, the Disney logo's going to pop up, and you're going to be like, Sean, there's nothing at the end. But when the Pixar logo pops up, that's where it'll hit you. Stay. I guarantee you're going to enjoy it. It touches back to a joke that happens in the mid part of the film, and it completes it at the very end, and it's great, and I was so happy that I stayed after to see it. So I strongly urge you guys, stay all the way to the very, 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 very end of the credits. You will not be sorry. Back to the actual thing. Tom Hanks is at his very best with Woody in this film, whereas with Toy Story 3 was all about the mortality of these toys, and and how being a lost toy, like with Lotso the bear, and was kind of a bad thing. Being lost was the worst thing that Woody could think of, and that it basically makes you crazy to not have a child. And in a sense, that's kind of what goes on here with Gabby Gabby, in a sense, but that's the one thing that Woody just can't understand, or concept of being a lost toy. To him, that's his ultimate nightmare. And then you have Bo Peep, who, that was kind of one of the big things, too, with Bo Peep, is she was in Toy Story 2, and then she just disappeared in Toy Story 3. Like, they dropped her name once, and Woody was sad, but they never ever explained what happened to her. In this film, the opening 10 minutes explains what happened to Bo Peep, where she went, and why she wasn't in Toy Story 3. And it's a sad beginning. I'm not saying it's, like, up in terms of sadness, but it definitely carries the beats of the story along, and it helps move the story forward with what's going on in Toy Story 4. But Tom Hanks does a phenomenal job as Woody, gives so much more layers to the character, because just like with Tom Hanks, I mean, he's older now, but so is Woody. Woody's gone through basically 2 children now in terms of his character, and so he's kind of getting up there, and and he's doing his best to kind of keep things status quo. And the problem is that he's not in charge anymore, and he's not at the point of where he was in Toy Story 1, where Buzz came in and he's just kind of acting crazy because he doesn't want to be number 2. It's just that he just doesn't know how to let go of the reins and know that he's not the number 1 toy anymore, and that he doesn't have to control everything and be there for Bonnie, because Bonnie's got other toys, and Bonnie, has all these other things, and Woody is not the prime focus. And then, of course, once he runs into Bo Peep and he sees how Bo's living her life, it's fun and exciting and different and stuff like that. And, of course, obviously, that's always been one of the big romantic storylines of Toy Story, was Bo and Woody. So to have them back together is great. Annie Potts, who voices Bo Peep, does a fantastic job as well. And Tom Hanks and Annie Potts do a beautiful job playing back and forth as Woody and Bo Peep. Tim Allen, he does kind of take a little bit more of a back seat in this one. I mean, Buzz does get his moments, but this is probably the least Buzz we see in all the Toy Story franchise. And the only negative, I guess I could say, it wasn't a personal problem for me, but it could be a problem for a lot of people, is that most of the film is focused on all these new toys, and not barely at all any focused on the old characters of the Toy Story. So if you're a huge fan of Potato Head, Rex, Ham, Jessie, Bullseye, any of them, they're in the movie, but it's not their story. So they are used very, very minimally in the film. But in a sense, for the most part, they usually are used very minimally in the Toy Story films, and the story usually focuses on Buzz and Woody. So if that's something that you guys are going to find negative in the film, then fine, there's a negative for you, because that's the only thing I'm going to have negative-wise. I'm not even going to do a what doesn't work in this review, because I thought everything worked in this film. But if you want to find something wrong with the film, it could be that the original toys don't really get a whole lot to do in this film. But yeah, Buzz is also kind of going through his own dilemma. When Woody jumps out of the RV, everyone looks to Buzz to lead them, and Buzz is not a leader. Buzz is kind of a good number two, and so he kind of has his own identity crisis, not knowing how to run things, not knowing how to do things, and having to kind of figure stuff out on his own without Woody there to help him out. And so Buzz has got a good arc. It's just not as important or as focused as it is with Woody, but it's still very good, and Tim Allen, like always, does a great job as Buzz. Tony Hale as Forky. I'll admit, the trailers, I couldn't stand Forky. I thought Forky was going to be a very bad move for the franchise, and I thought that it wasn't going to work. And I'll admit, at the beginning, Forky is exactly how I expected him to be. But eventually, Forky finally kind of starts to figure things out, and that character actually starts to become really, really good. And Tony Hale does a great job as Forky. He becomes a very lovable character, and I would not be surprised if all of a sudden you're going to start seeing a lot of little kids walking around with Forky dolls, because Forky actually does do a fantastic job in the film overall. You just had to get used to him in the film. Keegan-Michael Key and, of course, Jordan Peele, hilarious as Ducky and Bunny. Every time they're on screen, they crack you up. This is definitely the funniest Toy Story film in the franchise, where 3 was the most heartbreaking. 4 is definitely the funniest. There are so many laugh-out-loud moments, mainly coming from Key and Peele as Ducky and Bunny. And then, of course, you got Keanu Reeves as Duke Kaboom. When he comes in, it's Keanu Reeves. I mean, he's fantastic, and he does a fantastic job as Duke Kaboom. I love that character. I just wanted more of that character. We get enough of him in the film, but if they would have given him more time, I totally would have been okay with it. But Duke Kaboom's awesome. But the big plus with this film, and for many of you guys know, one of the things I loved most about Black Panther or Avengers Infinity War or anything like that is when you have a villain that makes sense, that you can sympathize with, and that you can understand. And they're bad, but they're bad for a reason, and you can understand why they are bad. And that's what's going on with Gabby Gabby. Gabby Gabby is the quote-unquote villain of this story. And her objective is pretty violent in terms of the toys, especially towards Woody in this case. But once you actually let Gabby Gabby actually explain herself, and you get some backstory to Gabby Gabby, you kind of understand what she's going through, and you kind of sympathize with her, and it makes sense. And then you're kind of like, oh, I kind of actually side with Gabby Gabby on this one. And then something later on in the film happens that you were expecting, like, okay, it's Toy Story, they're going to do this. And then it goes in a completely different way, and it's heartbreaking. Like, you didn't think you were going to feel this way about this particular character, and then something happens, and then you're just like, oh, crap. Like, you just feel so bad for this character, to the point where you want this character to rise up and to get what's coming to him. And I didn't think I was going to get that with this film, especially with this character in particular, but you got it. And it was incredibly well done. Like I said, Gabby Gabby is a fantastic character. It's voiced by Christina Hendricks. She does a fantastic job. You also got Allie McKay. She plays Giggle McDimples. She's one of Bo Peep's little friends. She's hilarious. Carl Weathers pops up as a couple G.I. Joes. He's pretty funny in his small role. And then, of course, you got the original cast. Joan Cusack as Jessie, and you got the rest of the group as well. I don't have their names right in front of me, but all of them do great. They're all great in their small little parts. They're just not as big as the previous films. But yeah, and then you have the ending. It was a beautiful ending. It makes sense for where the characters were going to go. It's a very sad ending. It definitely made me tear up. Not as much as Toy Story 3 did, but it still got me there. And it's a beautiful ending to this franchise. Now, if they decide to keep going with Toy Stories, I hope they don't. But if they do, I trust Pixar now that if they decide to go with another Toy Story, I trust that they know what they're doing, and they're going to be putting their best foot forward for this franchise. Because the last thing they want to do is have this franchise fail, and I don't think they're going to let it. So if this is the end of the franchise, it ends in a beautiful fashion for the characters. and bookends a lot of characters' arcs overall. Now, if they decide to keep going, I don't know where they're going to go with it, but I'll definitely be there to see it. But yeah, so like I said, I don't have really any negatives for this film. I loved this film. It made me so happy. It exceeded all my expectations. It made me laugh. It made me cry. It made me feel things. So going into overall thoughts, I cannot recommend this film enough. If you guys love the Toy Story franchise, you're already going to see this movie. Even if you guys haven't seen the Toy Story franchise, which, hey, who the hell are you? This actually is a complete story. So is it better to have known these characters for 3 films like you did? Yes, but you could actually go into this movie with no prior knowledge of the Toy Story franchise, and you would still be okay with this movie. You're not going to be completely lost. Yeah, some of the relationships won't make as much sense, but you could actually still watch this without any prior knowledge to Toy Story and be okay with this film. This is also the first Pixar film that I can remember where they did not have a short with the film. So for anyone expecting a Pixar short, you're not getting it with this one. It went right into the film. So there's no Pixar short with this one, which I usually enjoy those. So I was kind of bummed that we didn't get that. But yeah, fantastic film. One of my favorites of the year. Could not talk any highly more about this film. I can't wait to see it again. So going into the top 10 of 2019 so far, I did not think this was going to happen. I would not have bet money on it. But Toy Story 4 takes the number 1 spot, finally jumping over Avengers Endgame. So Toy Story 4 starts their debut off at number 1 with Avengers Endgame at number 2, Rocket Man at number 3, Booksmart at number 4, Us at number 5, John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum at number 6, followed by Long Shot, then Child's Play, then Brightburn, and then ending it off with Disney's Aladdin with Shazam dropping out of the top 10. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I hope you guys go out of your way to go see this film, and you guys have as much fun as I did watching it. If you guys like this review, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys feel like this review is worth sharing, go ahead and hit that share button. But most importantly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that way you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the channel. And also don't forget to follow us at all the social media outlets you see below. Next week, we've got, what comes out? Yeah, Annabelle Comes Home, and I think Yesterday, the Beatles movie, Yesterday, which I'm actually really excited to see, so I hope that does really well. So check out, or be on the lookout for reviews for that, and until next time, till I see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.